Going through the process, it helps them focus on what they're going to do, and it sort of coalesces in their mind about exactly how they're going to proceed. And without that sort of forcing them to go through that exercise, it's sometimes more amorphous, it's less clear exactly what's going to happen. And I think it helps for their chair too, or those working with them, to know exactly what they're going to do. So I think there's value to it from that perspective as well.
I agree. I mean, I just think overall it helps our students be able to go through processes and understand that there are different ways of maneuvering, but at the same time, we cross paths all the time with the types of research that we do. Yeah.
It said if students get to do a secondary data project also, that it would qualify for it.
Yeah, there are some things we're having to tweak on the non, that right now, I've just given you what some of the changes we made, but there will have to be some others.
Okay.
One of the changes too that I thought I'd go ahead and bring up that the nursing form doesn't see, that the non-nursing form does see, is where it says the brief description, or it says description of the project. In the non-nursing, I went ahead and put in there brief review of lit, comma. Let me see if I can remember everything I put. Something about well, it references too, but the procedures. Because I think it's really important. This is what I've been missing in some of the reports that come to me from these areas, is that the procedures are missing. So we assume, everybody assumes that we all are on the same page. And what happens is, I don't know how somebody went about getting this information. Did you go at night, after midnight, and say, I'm just going to, if it's secondary data, did I just go and grab it and go back to my office and start working on it? Did it have information related to people and then you had to blacken that out? Or, I don't know what somebody did on the procedure. So for non-nursing, especially with secondary data, I need to know those procedures. And so that's on y'all's form. And I'm going to have to talk to the nursing group to see if that's needed or not. If it's strictly the evidence-based practice where they can go in, look at literature, and then translate that, that's fine. But if it is working with some secondary data, then I definitely need procedures on that type of data.
On the non-nursing form then, does it have these same 10 questions?
It does, but we're going to have to change it up a little bit. Yeah, it's just that,
Some of them don't.
yeah, no, some of them don't work well with a social work or a COSD type project, but they are at least in the same ballpark of things that, we need to be able to ask to make sure that we're not going into human subjects related.
So, like on one of them that strikes me, so it says the project will not be described as research and public presentations and stuff. So what would it be described as?
Well, this is for, and the reason, and these are questions we're tweaking because with questions like that, if they're non-human subjects, they'll be able to present no matter where they are or what they're doing.
Okay.
This was based on, if we're not going through the IRB, we want to make sure that we're protected, that somebody's not going to just go out and start talking about something with names on it and with identifiers and things like that. So we've got to make sure that we're protecting whoever it is we're talking about, if it's secondary data, but not necessarily if it's a QI project or something that's more translational, because that in itself doesn't have any type of data connected to it. It's more review of literature. So it's very different in some of these things that we're having to deal with, but the bottom line is Tim Barth has given permission for us to be able to do this type of approval, being that it is non-human subjects. He says, hey, y'all do the way that you see fit, but just make sure that if it's secondary data, that it's done appropriately so that we haven't messed up. And that's why we want to make sure these questions are there and that people understand we don't just start going out and presenting on information with names attached if they were there in the first place. You see what I'm saying? We want to make sure everybody's clear. The other part, I can't bring up it's not letting me bring up the internet. If you can visualize here at the research website, There are the bullets across the top, and one of the top bullets is for the students. And on that student, if you press on it, it will bring up IRB process. Now, that confuses some people because it just says IRB and it doesn't say non-human subjects. But right now, everything is under that bullet. Okay, so when you go to it, it's got IRB, it's got symposium information, and so you want to go to the IRB bullet. And when you pull that up, I've changed it, well, Alex has changed it as of today, but it's got the protocol review form, just as it's always been for human subjects. Okay? It's got the the NIH training website where individuals can go to get that training and get your certificate. That certificate is required for all research projects. All. Not just human subjects, but non-human subjects as well. That website address is there. Click on it, brings it up, you can go with it. If you want to do city instead of NIH, no problem. Just go to the TCU research website, and I think that address is there also, isn't it? The city one? Yeah. So you could go to either one if you want to, especially if you're doing hospital connections. There may be a city, they want you to do city instead of NIH. Either one are approved through us and through IRB. Doesn't matter which one you do. But that certificate needs to be attached when you submit your forms, either way. And that goes with the file that you submit to the review committee. As you saw here, and I want to bring this up again, the nursing review board has done an excellent job of saying, you know what, trying to fit a square peg in a round hole is not working. Yes, we want our kids to go through the process of research, but it just doesn't work to answer all those questions on a protocol review form. And so they've helped us out by putting this streamlined form together. Now, does it fit for everybody? Not necessarily, but we need feedback on how it's going to fit, and we'll make it fit, and we'll put it in. If it needs to be a social work form, we'll put it in as social work. If it's COSD, we'll put it in COSD. Kines, we'll put it in as Kines. And you can go in and get whichever form you need to. Those things will be out there. What we wanted you to hear today is that they're there. That we don't have to go through a protocol review form anymore that's sent to Tim Barth to get approval if it's non-human subjects, which is shortening the time dramatically from what it was, as long as I did my part. All right? The other thing that I wanted to bring up that had to do with the forms that they've listed here is that the faculty member, I know sometimes, has not known that a form has come through, has been submitted. So students that are here today, just know that when that form is checked, that yes, the faculty member has been part of that as well as the student. If I find out otherwise, it won't move past me for a while. Just know that my consequence for this is you're going to learn the hard way that you need to go through the process the right way. Don't just start checking things off and saying, oh, well, I know my mentor is fine with me moving forward with this. When I hear from a mentor that says, I didn't know the student was moving forward, and trust me, I've had this go through to me before from faculty. When that happens, just know that I'm going to just be as stubborn as I want to be. Okay? And I just like to say that out front because pass it on to your friends that I'm serious about this. The mentor has to be involved. We don't need the mentor signature on there, but we need to know that mentor has told you to go ahead and move forward. Okay? Yeah.
And in the PDF file that we required, that first sheet is the sheet that is signed to verify faculty input. That's that student attestation clause that I mentioned. Because we were getting projects also without the faculty blessing the project formally before it came to us. So that is a step that we need.
Other questions for them on the process, how they did it? I know that we have individuals from other DRB committees here, students that are here. Any questions that y'all have? Okay.
guidelines for the composition of the DRBs?
Yes. Let's talk, there are two guidelines. One is for the DRB that looks at human subjects. Then there's the guidelines for the DRB that's looking at non-human subjects. With non-human subjects, we're asking that two people look at these. The chair and one other on the committee to make sure that, yes, indeed, we have what we have, so that when it moves to me, it doesn't get stopped with, no, it should have been on the other form, no, it should have been this, no, it should have been that. When it comes to the DRBs for reflecting approval for human subjects, not approving, but acknowledging that they are human subjects and need to go to Tim Barth for approval, there are some steps here. One of the steps is the committee that you have right now does not have to have a non-department committee member on it, because Tim Barth represents the IRB, which has one on it, so it does not have to have one on your committee. But we still ask that if you've got, we want male and female if possible, but we also know that some departments have very few of the other gender. So we try to get, well, as many, as equal as we can, if possible, on the human subject side. But at the same time, it doesn't need to be more than 5 on the committee at this point at the departmental level.
Is that also a minimum? Is that also a minimum?
That's a minimum. And I think everybody at this point has. We were short on that at one point with social work, because that's about all they had, but they've grown now, so we've got more individuals who can be part of it. Did y'all want to add anything, being the research people, sponsored research? All right. Thank you for
That's
coming.
not my shop.
Okay, well, thanks for coming.
Thank you.
All right, but when it comes through the non-human subjects, you really don't have to have full committee look at those, as long as we just have one or two. The other thing that I wanted to bring up on on human subjects, human subject side, this is new. We now have I don't know if you've noticed with the IRB, but they have what's called an IRB faculty email address to submit. It's called IRB Submit, which is to submit your IRB protocol PDF files to the IRB committee. That's faculty, or any student who goes through the IRB process. But now they have a student IRB email address. And what Tim has told me is that he would rather one person be sending these forward instead of everybody sending at will, because that way he then has a group of forms that he will evaluate and submit those back on a regular basis. I have had record times from him. I think the latest one was somebody from nursing, that it was a 1-week turnaround from me submitting to him. Really, it was a pretty quick turnaround in comparison to what we saw last year. But it has to go through that email address instead of just sending them to Tim Barth. We don't send them directly to Tim Barth anymore. It goes to him, but it has to go through this email address. The second piece is there's going to be a cover letter. It's not really a cover letter. It's a cover form that's supposed to be in a separate file from the PDF of the person that's submitting for the DRB to Tim Barth. I don't know where that form is yet. I've emailed him to find out where it is, but I don't know where it is yet. As soon as I know, that form will actually go on our site as well, and you'll have to complete that form as a student along with the protocol review that'll go to him. This is the human subject side, not non-human subjects, okay? Human subjects. And then those two move forward to Tim Barth to be approved. And then he submits his information back to you on that form. Okay? But that's the process as we know it now. So I'll need to get with, are you going to be the one for COSD? Okay. And then I'm not sure, I think it's Harriet for social work. and then it's Gloria Solomon for Canice. And then we all, you know, that right now it's Jonelle Wells for nursing, the nursing review board, but Kenneth Lawrence is going to be the next one in command. It still goes through you though, right, for submission?
To you.
But for the files.
If it's a QI project, it goes to the department representative.
But if it's not, I mean, if it's human, but it goes to Jonelle. And when does that switch? To, okay. So right now it goes to Jonelle Wells. Any other questions?
I think it just did.
It just did. Well, excellent job. Thank you for showing us the process that y'all used and for why we went through the process, which is excellent. And if you have other questions related to how they've developed their SharePoint, one of the things that I will mention is that theirs works very well because the comments that come in go to a Word file with this chart instead of to the SharePoint with comments. That doesn't work very well, but doing it with the Word file does. And so if you want to talk to them more about that, that would be another thing that they would be very happy to talk to you about. Thanks for coming out today. November 15th, be here for Dr. Mina Shaw's. It won't be here, it'll be over at the Kelly Center. And that's where our next one will be, okay? Thanks for coming out.
Said I'm going to stop by now. February 14th.